8:34 a.m. "Good morning," Cheryl greeted me. I returned the favor, expecting that to be the end of the conversation, until I noticed her staring expectantly at me, seeming to be waiting. "Yes?" I asked. "I was wondering if my boyfriend Chip could get a job here with us," she said. She motioned towards a guy standing by the front doors that I hadn't noticed before. I looked at the boyfriend. Blonde hair, muscular, eyes so blue and teeth so white that they looked almost artificial. He's got enough money to get work done, but he wants to work at a grocery store? I thought. He also definitely didn't look like Cheryl's type. But then again, the only guy I'd ever seen her show interest in is her garden gnome, and Gary when he's passing out samples to the shoppers. She never asks what the samples are, which is something I highly recommend doing, but she always seems to love the taste of whatever they are. It doesn't help that Gary looks down at the floor and vigorously shakes his head when I ask him. "Tell me about yourself, Chip," I said.
"Hey, my name's Chip Micro. Growing up, I was a weird loner kid in school, till my glow up during junior year. Everyone started to hang out with me, and then they realized they should have been hanging out with me more in the first place."
Cool," I replied. I was about to tell them that it probably wouldn't be a good idea, until I saw Cheryl giving me puppy dog eyes. "I could hire him as a shelf stalker, I guess," I told Cheryl. "Great," she replied. She and Chip walked off towards the break room as Cheryl mumbled something about getting her chocolate chip an apron, which made me cringe. 11:57 a.m.
"Are there boomboxes for sale here?"
asked Chip. I stopped counting the bag of ancient rune crystals a customer had used as payment to look at them. "No, why?"
"Cheryl's on break right now, so I was gonna surprise her with a serenade," he explained. "I need to play a cheesy love song from the boombox, while doing it in order to properly confess my undying love for her."
"Uh-huh," I responded. I paused for a moment to see if he'd explain more, but that was it. "Dude, what even are you?" I asked. He stared at me with a blank expression for a few moments before his face scrunched up and his left eye twitched aggressively. It was during this that Lacy left the employee bathroom and entered the break room. She paused wiping her hands off with the paper towel, and we both just sat there while Chip had a seizure or short-circuited or whatever the hell was going on. I don't think either of us really knew.
"My name's Chip Micro. I was the weird loner."
Okay, I interrupted him. "We have regular radios on aisle 11 if you want to check there." He paused for a moment again, staring off into space. I was afraid my interrupting had fried his brain, but he chirped up after a few seconds and shouted on, "Okay, thanks." He spun around and began to march off to finish his side quest. Lacy and I looked at each other at the same time, both with concerned looks on our faces. "What the hell was that?" she asked as she sat down at the table across from me. "No idea." "What did you say his last name was?" "Micro." "His name is Chip Micro?" she asked while chuckling. "Like microchip, but backwards?" I paused my counting again, fully thinking about that revelation. An accepting, "Huh," was all I could give her as a response. "I bet he's a cyborg," she said. I looked up at her with an amused look on my face. "What, did you not just see him practically short-circuit in our break room? And his name is literally a technological device." "Why would Cheryl have a cyborg?" "I don't know, but I bet you that's what he is." "No way," I said while shaking my head and chuckling to myself. "Bet you $20. I looked at her to see an eyebrow raised in a playful yet challenging manner. "You're on," I said, and we shook hands from across the table. Man, her hands are soft, I thought, and I quickly shook my head and snatched my hand away. "What?" she asked. "Nothing. Just gotta chill," I lied. She shrugged before getting up from the table to get a bag of Doritos from the vending machine. "Just count your runes, dude," I thought. "You have bigger things to worry about besides your love life. She'd never go for a dude like you anyway." 1:03 p.m. So, the owners think that the doorway that took over our drink fridges is great for business. Why, you might be asking? because a whole slew of oddities has come out of the thing. Not even just demons. Oh no. Apparently there is a wide variety of beings that can manipulate the portals like this one, and they find it convenient that one has popped up in our strange little grocery store. I was informed by some of the beings that our portal was one specifically meant to send someone to hell, but the demons had changed it around a bit to screw with Charlie's. Some customers actually didn't know about the change, and they really thought they would be walking into hell when they stepped out of it. They still decided to shop anyway, though. Nothing like stopping to get a snack on your road to eternal damnation. Am I right? I honestly didn't care, though, because so far the beings didn't seem threatening, and the owners also told me that I didn't have to replace the drink coolers due to the business boom. The only annoying thing about it was that we now had a wider variety of supernatural beings coming to shop with us, which made the owners feel like we should increase our available merchandise. Which is why I was currently stocking jars of pickled human ears, something incredibly popular with our vampire, still sane Wendigo. I didn't think they existed either, and cannibal customers. There was another annoying occurrence besides that one, but it was mostly just annoying for the owners. It was absolutely hilarious for us, but it upset the owners because it wiped out our whole entire stock of frozen turkeys. Another new type of customer we had was wizards. We had some in the past, but not enough to really know anything about them as supernatural beings. We learned a lot about them when a group of 5 of them came through the portal, and it turns out that they were the literal definition of crackhead energy. They told us they were looking for party decorations for a ball, but made it very clear they were unhappy with our lack of options of live-action decorations. Whenever I asked what a live-action decoration was, one of them sighed, pointed his wand at the display of frozen turkeys, and gave it a gentle swirl. Immediately, the turkeys began to hop out of the display, hobbling around with their lack of feet and their wrappers restricting them. Soon, though, the wrappers began to pop as they continued to wiggle, stretching the plastic beyond its limits in order to be free. Wrappers littered the floor everywhere, and the turkeys began to slip on them in their haste to be free and flee. Another quick swirl of his wand made the turkeys stop in their path to freedom, instead making them begin to form a circle. The rest of the wizards giggled with delight, running to join them. Soon, they were teaching the turkeys how to do Highland dancing, as another wizard conjured up some bagpipes to play. Customers gathered around, entranced by the dancing turkeys and clapping along to the music. Cheryl and Chip even joined in, bringing along her garden gnome. Lacy walked up around this time, and we watched the sight for a few minutes, both amused. "Are Cheryl and Chip trying to teach the garden gnome how to do the robot?" she asked. "I believe so." She started giggling after a few seconds. "What?" I asked. "I leave you alone for a few minutes to go stock some stuff, and I come back to a turkey hoedown throwdown," she said, struggling to finish the sentence through laughter. I rolled my eyes at her before heading towards the intercom microphone to announce the end of the dance party. Before I could make it there, though, a pack of werewolves came barreling through the sliding glass doors and made a beeline towards the turkeys. Total chaos ensued as the turkeys began to zoom around the store, weaving in between register stations and up and down the aisles, trying to get away from the werewolves as fast as possible. The wizards were throwing spell after spell at the wolves, upset that their dance party had been ruined. The spells bounced between the aisles and the shelves within them, causing explosions of products to catapult into the ceiling. "Damn it!" I yelled. "I just cleaned Lacy's blood off of those." Lacy rolled her eyes at me at that comment. Her facial expression quickly transformed into deer in the headlights moments later, as a werewolf leaped over the register station she was standing by. It landed on all fours, skidding to a halt right before our newspaper racks and snatching up a cowering turkey that was hiding behind them. If that turkey still had a head, I 100% believe it would have been saying a lot more than gobble gobble at that moment, before it was ripped to shreds by the werewolf's sharp teeth. Lacy, however, did scream as chunks of turkey organs landed on her. The wolf paused to stare at her for a moment with a confused look on its furry face, before running off to catch another snack. Chaos continued as we watched the wolves playing bumper cars with the shelves. It took 3 of them running down aisle 5 all at once for the shelves to be completely knocked over. A domino effect began, and Lacy and I stared with our mouths agape as all of the shelves came tumbling down. Cheryl and Chip appeared beside us at that moment, just as shocked and mouths just as agape. I'm not sure if it was me seeing things, but I could have sworn the garden gnome also looked shocked for a second there. The events around us prevented me from looking too deeply into that, though, as explosions of fireworks and werewolf growls made their way above the Shelf Mountain, and the wizards continued to shoot their spells at the beasts. "The owners are gonna kill me," I muttered. Lacy looked at me and nodded, a look of pity on her face. A turkey approached Chip, and for some odd reason, he thought it would be a good idea to reach down and try to pick it up. "Hey, little guy," he said. In its panicked state, the turkey actually let Chip get close to it for a second, before a werewolf approached the two, baring its teeth at Chip. The turkey scurried off, but the wolf was more focused on Chip now. "It's okay, Mr. Werewolf," explained Chip in an attempt to calm the wolf down. "Chip!" yelled Cheryl. "It might not even be a boy wolf. It might be a girl wolf." "Oh," Chip said, not even realizing that possibility. "I'm sorry, Miss Wolf," he said as he reached his hand out. "Here, Miss Wolfie. Here, girl," he said, stupidly calling to it like a dog. In an instant, the wolf's jaws had unlatched and engulfed Chip's arm, biting down and pulling it away with it. Lacy gasped as we saw the loose wires and sharp scraps of metal jutting out of his bicep. Sparks and strange green fluid emanated from the bitten-off limb, dripping onto and burning through the tiled floors. "You owe me," Lacy told me without taking her eyes off the sight. Even though I knew she couldn't see my reaction, I simply nodded in response, too shocked to speak. Lacy and I spent the next few minutes attempting to calm things down and failing astronomically. They only finally started to calm down when the wizards managed to talk the werewolves into a dance battle between them and the turkeys. They promised the wolves that no matter the outcome of who won, they would get to eat turkey no matter what. The turkeys weren't made aware of this, but we didn't particularly care about turkeys right at that very moment. We were just glad things were calming down. The dance competition ended up being pretty fun to watch, and I can now cross watching a frozen turkey breakdance until it thaws and turns to mush off my bucket list. After the dance battle was over, the werewolves finished their feast. We talked the wizards into magically fixing what had been damaged in the store, which was basically everything.
Sorry about all that, guys,"
said one wizard. He looked younger than the others and seemed a hell of a lot more mentally stable.
"We wizards can get a bit carried away."
"It's okay," said Lacy with a grimace. "Just please make sure it never happens again." The wizard nodded before turning to Cheryl as she and Chip approached. She held the garden gnome in her arms like a baby, rocking it back and forth as if it really were one.
"You guys found Larry?"
said the wizard while pointing at the gnome. "Larry?" I asked.
"Yes, he's one of the gnomes that work at our wizarding school," he explained. "You know, Pigweed School of Magical Stuff."
I looked at the gnome, squinting as I thought I saw the gnome's eyes were wider than usual. They didn't move though, so I wasn't sure. "A gnome that looks like this works in your school?" The wizard nodded and opened his mouth to respond, but Cheryl cut him off. "There's no way Chip Jr. works at your wizard school. He's a cyborg like Chip," she explained.
"Did he tell you that?"
asked the wizard.
"Gnomes are notorious for being deceitful."
"I don't believe you," Cheryl stated, unfiltered as always. "Can you fix Chip's arm?" The wizard glanced towards Lacy and I, wondering if he should continue his endeavor of trying to convince her. He decided against it when he saw us shaking our heads, both of us knowing it would be futile. He sighed before taking out his wand and circling it a few times around Chip's half-eaten arm. Instantly, the arm began to grow. Weirdly, though, the blood that dripped from his arm was no longer green. It was now crimson red.
"Oh, whoops," said the wizard. "I always get those two spells confused. But don't worry, it won't reject or anything. It might be human, but it is still magically human."
Chip checked out his new extremity, flexing his fingers as he did so. The only thing he had to respond with was,
"What is worry?"
3:15 p.m. "Can you show me where the bread is?" The question confused me greatly. Not because I didn't know where the bread was. I knew we were out due to the raft of ducks that had visited us on Tuesday. They were products of an experiment gone wrong. Or was it right? An experiment that gave them the ability to talk. They came in absolutely starving. Another product of the experiment. They left after they got their bread, and after Cheryl spent an hour pissing them off by trying to catch one of them to keep as a pet. I've never thought of a duck as a threat, but they felt very threatening as they ganged up on Cheryl. It took Lacy threatening to unleash Spot on them before they agreed to leave. The reason this question confused me was because of the number of voices that asked it. It sounded like a large crowd had asked it. A crowd that most definitely could not have quietly snuck up on me within the last 5 minutes of me stocking this merchandise shelf. Even still, it sounded like the crowd of voices was coming from all around me, and that didn't really make sense either. The shelf was in front of me, and I could tell no one was directly beside me, yet the voices sounded like they were coming from everywhere all at once. They also sounded like a wide variety of people of different genders, ages, and accents. Now that I think about it, was the question even asked in English? Ahem. The voices cleared their throat, trying to get my attention again. I had been lost in thought, trying to figure out what weird phenomenon I would witness upon turning around. What I saw was unlike anything I had ever seen before, and it immediately made me incredibly uncomfortable due to its complexity. Within seconds of looking at it, I began to get a migraine. Excuse me? I asked the wriggling mass of everything. It was like one gigantic tangle of everything you could think of and imagine on Earth, and things I thought of even began to appear in the mass as I thought of them. Something I can only describe as squiggles of television snow static wrapped around the tendrils of smoke of all colors, even of colors I didn't know were real. Within the middle of those strange squiggles were my random thoughts, and other flashes of things. Possibly thoughts of others in the surrounding area. It was incredibly overwhelming, and I couldn't look directly at it for more than a few seconds at a time. Do you guys have any bread? I started, pausing due to being hypnotized by Lacy smiling at me from within the cloud. A thought that had been populated in my mind for a while now. I shut it down once I realized the possibility of her seeing it, replacing it with images of ducks chasing Cheryl. We did, but a duck rampage took it over. Oh, that makes sense, said the voices once more. I feel like it didn't make any sense, but who was I to argue with a cloud of literally everything? What are you? I muttered out. I'm a living paradox, they responded, leaving it at just that. What is that exactly? I answer and unanswer all questions, it replied, being just as vague as before. I glanced at it again and saw flashes of Lacy and me, a version of us that was dancing, a version of us with kids, a version of us where half of her body was sucked into the portal and cut in half, and many more versions of us in happy and horrific moments. Stop that. Stop what? It asked. You're the one doing it. I'm not thinking of Lacy being chopped in half by a door. No, but you're thinking about Lacy. I'm displaying every possibility you might experience with her. I stared into the cloud, ignoring the pounding of my head as I imagined having a normal, happy life with her. I pictured her smiling at me, glowing as she did that day she was resurrected. The image of her beauty covered the whole span of the cloud, eventually warping the tendrils of smoke into stretched-out Lacy zooming around. Wow, you really love her. Shut up, I yelled. We don't have any bread. Can you go away? I'm hungry, and you cannot avoid feeling the essence of life, for you will... I snatched a honey bun out of my back pocket that I had been saving for a snack, and chucked it into the cloud. All of the images of Lacy within the cloud had identical honey buns smack them in the face at the same time, catching them completely off guard and causing some of them to flip me off in reaction. There, how was that? I asked. Do you have any more of those? It asked. Aisle 3. The images within the cloud morphed to a variety of people, all nodding and smiling at me in thanks for their sweet treat before the cloud zoomed off in search of more. Did I just use a honey bun to avoid my love life? Yes, I did. Did that leave you, the reader, with a lot of unanswered questions that I am avoiding out of cowardice? Yes, it did. Deal with it. 5:46 p.m. "Hiya," came Lacy's voice from above me. I slid out from under the shelf I had been under. "Hi," I replied. "So, there's a witch at Register 3? She's wondering why we don't have any Eye of Newt and or Toe of Frog in stock. Mustard seeds on aisle 6 and buttercups on aisle 11, I responded. I really wish these witches would get up to date on their ingredient names. Lacy shrugged while looking at me. I just work here. I get what they ask for and hope something doesn't come along and murder me. You're doing pretty well with the Wendigo, keeping it from murdering you. Yeah, I got him some dog toys, so I think he likes me more now, she said while fidgeting with a pack of gummy worms she had taken off a hook beside her. The only thing I can't seem to get down is the aisles. I can never remember where things go. That's because they change every day. The look on her face screamed light bulb moment. That's why the mummy wrap randomly got moved by the moisturizer. I nodded. Sometimes the shelves have a sense of humor. Makes it a little less annoying that they constantly change. I watched Lacy roll her eyes as she replaced the candy back. I don't know how you've run this place for so long. I shook my head. I don't know either. She was silent for a minute, staring down at the exit of the aisle. I straightened some items on the shelves as I waited for her to talk again. Thank you for being there for me that day, she finally said. The topic change really caught me off guard, and I looked at her to see she was already looking back at me. I froze as she began to walk closer, becoming incredibly nervous that she was so near. A feeling like fireworks began to ignite within me as I felt her lips peck my cheeks. My cheeks fired up so quickly that there was no way I could have hidden it. She had caught me red-handed. More like red-cheeked, really. She smiled at me before turning around to walk away, and I honestly just stood there for a few minutes, feeling completely numb with joy, yet dumbfounded. 8:32 p.m. It's been a hell of a time since our last update, even without the threat of dying every second being there. I mean, it is still looming over us like a black cloud, but at least now there's a countdown for it instead of not knowing an if or when. Lacy, Gary, and I have been cooking up some stuff behind the scenes in preparation, since the owners have yet to take it seriously. I literally FaceTimed them the door to prove it was actually there, and they gave zero shits. Anyways, I figured I would highlight some of the other happenings before I finish closing up the store for tonight. They aren't as long, but I felt as if they deserved a mention. There's another plus side to our new wider stock and customer range. Our packaging has been upgraded. I didn't know this, but the owners actually hired a team of wizards to play spells on certain items. Can't have a serial slasher walking into the store and ending us all, can we? No. So now the slasher section we recently added is spell protected, and prevents murderers from doing what they do best, until they are off of Charlie's property. Things like silver, wolfsbane, garlic, steaks, and holy water have also been given protective spells and better packaging. Items that we want to avoid being stolen have been given spells too. For example, we had a man trying to walk out with a flat-screen TV the other day. I will admit that he was ballsy, because who literally attempts that? His ego got downgraded exponentially when he was electrocuted while trying to make it through the doors. We also added more species-specific convenience items, such as fur combs, detangler, fang bleach, SPF 3000 sunblock, brooms, and cauldrons. Oh, and coconut water and free-range fingernails for our more health-nutty types. Acid Dude came back. This time he was completely fascinated with our portal. He stole some band-aids off the shelves and began to put them all over the hands that crawled around it, chasing them in order to do so, considering they did not want him to. Lacy offered him a bottle of nail polish, which he greatly appreciated. He tried to drink it at first, but he was quickly redirected. Gary now has a wider selection of meats in the deli, specifically a monster meat selection, which is what he likes to call it. It's a wide variety of select cuts from special creatures of all kinds. Whether it was able to be created due to the fact that the store now has a wider selection of special creatures as customers, I do not know. But I do know that he has become exceptionally close with a few of our slasher customers. You'd think that would worry us, but that just means he'll tell them we're off the market for their interests. If that means we have to turn a blind eye to Gary's chopping habits, then so be it. I set up a camera on the new shipment of garden gnomes we just got, just out of curiosity. I've also been paying more attention to Larry, otherwise known as Chip Jr. by Cheryl. I've always thought there was something weird about those garden gnomes, and how we get them so cheap from our suppliers. The idea that the owners were in charge of an underground gnome trafficking network didn't really shock me, though. Well, I think that's everything interesting that's happened recently. There will always be more, though, so stay tuned. You never know what's going to happen at Charlie's. And we're glad you guys are here with us. Become a channel member today for early access, bonus videos, and special emojis only available to members. Check out the description below or click the join button for more info. If you'd like another way to help support the channel, please consider joining my Patreon page at patreon.com/JordanGroupHorror. As a patron, you'll get access to bonus videos and content. You'll be credited at the end of every video going forward, and if you decide to stay for 3 months, I'll name a character after you which will be featured in a Hollow's End story. Links to join the Patreon are in the description. Thanks everyone for listening. Please like, subscribe, and comment to help the channel continue to grow. And see you again next time at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hope you have a great night.